So Anthony Yarde just fought the weekend against Ralfs Vilcans, and it's pretty unanimous over social media that he massively underperformed. And I've only just had a chance to watch it back, and in my opinion, he was rubbish. It wasn't the Yarde that we're used to seeing. At times, to be honest, he looked like a novice, going in straight lines, not really setting his punches up. I mean, he didn't have much of a jab. He was just making quite novice-like mistakes. Not what I'm used to seeing. All this was meant to be was a routine fight to get him back in action because he's had a legal dispute with Frank Warren, so he's been inactive. But in the end, it turned out to be quite a competitive fight. Despite Yarde dropping him in the first round, in the first 10 seconds, like I say, it went on to be very competitive. And I think the end score was 98-92 to Yarde, but that didn't paint the picture because it was very competitive and Yarde was getting hit far too easily throughout the fight. If you're new to the channel, please like and subscribe because it really helps me grow the channel and keep doing what I'm doing. I'm not too sure if Yarde just underestimated him or he came down to his level, because sometimes fighters raise the game with higher level of opponents. It's just the way it is. But either way, after dropping him in the first round, you know, in normal Yarde fashion, he would have got him out of there. So I'm not too sure, has he regressed? Right now, the light heavyweight division, it's all happening. We had Arthur Beterbiev versus Dmitry Bivol fighting for the undisputed. And the decision was quite controversial. There was a lot of mixed opinion on who won. Then we had Ben Whittaker versus Liam Cameron, and the two of them ended up over the ropes, and Ben Whittaker unable to continue, and people saying that he quit. I just don't get Yarde's performance. No disrespect to Vilcans, but he's not that good. I didn't recognise anybody on his record. It should have been an easy night's work for Yarde. Especially the fact that Yarde's fought at the highest level. He's fought the likes of Kovalev and Beterbiev. And, you know, despite getting stopped, he still gave a good account of himself. So it should have been an easy night's work. He never really settled into the fight. He never found any rhythm. It was like his timing was off. Because at times he was like a novice. He couldn't judge the distance. And he was getting hit far too easily. And like I've said, no disrespect to Vilcans, he's not that great. Yet Yarde made a hard night's work of it. This fight was a massive step down compared to the level he's been fighting at. And like I say, it was just meant to be a formality to get the ring rust off. Which is also crazy to say because I think he's been out less than a year, which isn't long really. Maybe it's just Vilcans' style. You know, styles make fights. But how can you go from world level down to this level and struggle? To me, it just shows the lack of experience in Yarde and maybe the holes in him as a fighter. Anthony Yarde, as far as I'm aware, didn't have much of an amateur career. And it's in the amateurs where you learn your craft, where you learn how to fight different styles. Orthodox, southpaw, you know, tall guys, small guys. And I think this is the reason why there's so many holes in his boxing. Physically, he's a genetic freak. What he lacks in experience, he makes up for in strength, power, and speed. But unfortunately, that only gets you so far. And when you get to the higher level, you get found wanting. And that's what's happened against Kovalev and also Beterbiev. And when he's fought Vilcans, he struggled. Yes, he won, but the lack of experience, he was found wanting. Even if a fighter hasn't had much amateur experience, doesn't mean he can't make a great pro. But that's where the apprenticeship is so important. Don't get me wrong, because early on, Yarde had a good apprenticeship. But after a while, he spent too long fighting lower level opponents, not fighters that were going to help him develop. I think early on, Frank Warren done a great job. He turned him into a star. From an unknown fighter to one of Britain's most well-known fighters. I'm pretty sure because of Frank, he earned a good amount of money. He should be thanking Frank. But instead, as we all know, that relationship is dissolved in an illegal dispute, which is crazy. Like I say, Frank done a great job. In Britain, he made him a household name. He made him more well known than some of the boxers straight out of the Olympic squad. Leaving Frank must be the worst move he's ever made. The timing couldn't be worse. Now that Frank's working with Turki Al-Sheikh and Riyadh season's here, he could have made a shed loads of money. He must be kicking himself. Even if he doesn't admit it, he's got to be. While Yarde's been kept out of the mix, his own fault might I mention, he's had to watch Craig Richards, Willie Hutchinson, Joshua Buatsi all fighting on Riyadh season. And you know, once upon a time, Yarde was Frank Warren's golden boy. So without doubt he would have been fighting on Riyadh season. he'll be gutted. I'm not too sure what happened between Yarde and Frank, but I'm pretty sure it was down to money. It's always down to money. And I also think it was probably down to Yarde wanting more money, getting too big for his boots, which was a big mistake, because now Frank's in an even better position than he was before, probably got more money at his disposal. People also like to mention and blame Yarde's trainer, Tundi. A lot of people think that he should leave them, that he's taken them as far as he can, and I personally don't like to blame the trainer. It's the oldest trick in the book. A fighter performs badly and they blame the trainer. I personally don't know the dynamics between Yarde and Tundi. I don't know how good of a trainer he is. The trainer can only do so much. They can give the instructions to the fighter, then it's up to the fighter to then go on to carry it out. They can't get in there and do it for them. As nice as that would be, because trust me, I've wished it before when the going's been getting tough, but they can't. So when the fight doesn't go to plan or the fighter loses, you can't use the coach as a scapegoat. I must admit, at times, I did think that Yarde's team sounded like yes men. With all that lines in the camp business, they sounded like motivators rather than teachers.
Lions in the camp! Lions in the camp!
But I could be wrong, because I don't know what they're doing and what they're teaching Yarde behind closed doors. We only see what they put out. And at the end of the day, it's up to Yarde to decide who his team is and who his trainer is. He knows what's best for his career. I don't want to take too much from Yarde's performance against Ralfs Vilcans, but it did show me there's holes in his game, and it is a problem. At times, Vilcans made Yarde look very ordinary, but that's what happens when you basically go from fighting bums to world level. You miss out on the middle ground, your development. You can't miss that period, it's essential. If I was going to blame Tundi for anything, it would be for that. Not getting the correct development fights, gradually getting better opponents. But as a fighter myself, I do know how difficult that can be. Finding the right opponent, fighters pulling out. So sometimes you've just got to take the opportunities as they come, or what's available. Would it be too far to say that Yarde is past his best? Or maybe just found his level? He's been a pro for 9 years, and he's fought 2 killers of the division, Kovalev and Beterbiev. Maybe those fights just took too much. Every fighter's career length is different. Maybe he's on the slide. Or maybe it was just a bad performance. You're only as good as your last fight. So the next fight, he could be completely different. He could be a complete animal. But right now, based on that performance, he didn't look great. There's plenty of fights domestically for Yarde, but the fight we all want to see is Joshua Buatsi. And based on Yarde's last performance, you would have to say that Joshua is a strong favourite. When you look at the current form in the opposition they faced, Joshua wins hands down. His recent win against Willie Hutchinson was great. I was there in Saudi and it was a great performance. I know Yarde hadn't fought since earlier in the year, and he's had that legal battle with his old mate Frank, and maybe his head just wasn't in the right place. But hopefully he gets it together and we'll see a better performance next time out. And hopefully that may be against Joshua Buatsi, because that fight has been a long time coming. It'd be a real shame if it didn't happen. It's one of those domestic clashes that must happen. Anthony Yarde is so physically gifted, he's any boxing coach's dream. He's got power, he's got strength, he's got speed, he's got good reflexes, he's got everything you need. And the simple fact is, in my opinion, he could have been so much better. There's fighters with half the amount of physical attributes and talent who've become world champions. With the right training, the right opportunities, the right discipline, you can go all the way. Maybe some adjustment does need to happen in the camp if he really wants to reach his full potential. What do you think of Yarde's career in his last performance? Don't forget to like and subscribe and go watch this video next.